Hey, fire behavior and combustion peeps. This is Engineer Osborne, instructor at Oxnard College, College of the Canyons, and Mount San Antonio College. Today we're going to cover an acronym that I used to use for roof operations. I'd been a paramedic and I had worked on a truck as a firefighter, but most of my career I was in the wildland area. So when I went over to be an engineer, or as they say in LA City, an apparatus operator, driving a truck, I had to come up with an acronym that I would review in my mind en route to any structure fire, whether it's commercial, residential, and I used Ladders SIKM to just kind of go through in my mind the things that we were going to do when we arrived on location. So again, this is my acronym, not one that's widely used in the fire department or anything, but everybody does this using memory tools and stuff. This is one that I used when I was the driver of a truck and got to do some really fun cuts and stuff on roof operations. So let's get going. Well, Ladders SIKM. Well, the L doesn't stand for ladders. It stands for look up. Because the first thing you want to do is you're spotting the fire engine as an engineer. You want to drive up, see the fire. You might drop someone at the hydrant to make the hydrant, but you want to get a good view of this structure. So a good engineer is going to at least go to the far corner so that the captain gets a view of three sides of the building. We always encourage people to do this in the battalions that I worked in, that don't just stop right smack dab in front of the residence or the building of any kind, because you want to leave room for the truck. The truck needs to be placed in such a way that the extension ladder will be a benefit. And by the way, the truck is a great equipment pool. It has just every tool you can imagine that you might need for access, for the operations that you're going to do. So I kind of had a saying, pull up, look up. When you pull up, look above you. You can look at the building and see, well, what is this building type? What is the roof type? Pull up, look up for hazards. Are you parking under power lines? Is your aerial ladder not going to be able to reach the roof because there are obstructions? So look up. Don't just get tunnel vision. Look up to prepare for what you might have to do in the sense of extension ladder. What kind of building is this? What kind of hazards do I have? The A in ladders stands for assignment. Everybody needs to know what their job is. So the first in engine is going to give a size up, and they might give some basic instructions from right there, but know that from that point on, the fire is going to be dynamic. Any of you who watch the car incident video that's on YouTube will get a sense of when you have a working fire, things are constantly changing. So you got to pay attention to what the IC is saying and what your captain or your leader is saying. So assignments are given as the IC gets a clearer picture of what this building type is, where the fire is, or what kind of a strategy are we going to put into play. Are we going offensive or defensive? And then as you come up with the tactics necessary to mitigate the fire, assignments are given out. So each company and each individual needs to know what they're expected to do. So the captain is going to get the instructions from the IC and will pass that on to the firefighters. But nowadays, almost all of us have radios, and or as we're pulling up, we have headsets, so we know what we're supposed to do. When I was a recruit, a probationary firefighter, we got a good rip and fire. I had a captain who really wasn't a very good training captain. He was a great guy, but we pulled up on a working structure fire, and it was my first really rip and fire. So I had come around the engine to the captain, and I said, "What do you want me to do?" And he said, "Put out the fire." And you know what? For a probationary firefighter, that was not adequate. That was not a good idea. The other firefighter, who was an old fart, he had grabbed a line and run to one side of the building, and I had no idea where he was. So I didn't even know. I guess I could have just followed the line and found him, but I was kind of standing there looking around, and a firefighter from another engine who knew me and was a more experienced guy came up and he goes, "Randy, come with me. Come on, let's grab a line. We're going to go on this side." And we started attacking the fire, and I just kind of did whatever he told me to do and got, a feel for the action of a structure fire. So, when you don't know what to do, you kind of like you're a bump on a log. So each company, but also each individual, needs to know what they're expected to do. Now, some truck companies, and if you read the document that's supposed to go along with this video that you're all supposed to read about the ladders acronym, I go into a little bit more detail about SOPs, SOJs, SOGs, whatever your fire department calls it, but the standard operating procedures or jobs. A lot of times when a truck shows up, there's one guy that's going to immediately start making sure there's access into the building and utilities. Another person might be getting the saw ready. Firefighter and the engineer might already, have the job. First thing they're going to do is they're going to grab one of the ground ladders, put the ground ladder up on the corner. Or if they're going to use the extension ladder, the firefighter will help that engineer get the extension ladder going and get that done. So a lot of times, for the very first part of getting at the fire, there might be standard operating procedures. But when you're done with that, you need to rally with your captain and communicate and say, "Okay, what now?" and move forward. Good training, you get to the point where this is all rote and you just do one thing after another. Well, once you have your assignment, you need to make sure that you've determined the roof type. We have 5 types. Type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see them here in this really good illustration. Type 1 is high-rise, fire-resistive, no combustible materials allowed in the building. Then we have non-combustible. It's similar, but a little bit more combustible materials are allowed, but basically non-combustible, just not as restrictive as fire-resistive. Ordinary construction, almost every commercial building in your district is going to be either type 3 or type 4, unless they are taller buildings or buildings that were required to have 1 or 2. But most of the time, this is what you see in the commercial part, manufacturing or mercantile or whatever. And then lastly, wood frame is, most residents are wood frame buildings. So, you do this right from the beginning. You pull up, you look up, you start assessing what kind of building is this, what type is it, and what kind of roof does it have. The best way to do this is to pre-plan buildings in your district. Always pay attention, even when you're doing fire prevention or just shopping. What's this roof like? What kind of construction is this building? In case you ever show up there on a fire, now you've visualized it, you've seen it. You have an idea of what's inside. Of course, an official pre-plan goes into much more detail than that, but, it's always a good idea everywhere you go in your district, pay attention. Think about, what would I do if there was a fire here? Where's the hydrant? Where's the fire department connection? Remember that first impressions can be wrong, especially like in old town districts where they have a lot of pre-33 buildings, and those of you who've taken construction know what construction for firefighters know what a pre-33 building is and the hazards it has. Well, a lot of times when they're trying to doll up a community, they'll put on makeup, they doll up that old lady, try and make her look a little bit better, and it's just makeup. It's not a tilt up, or it's not a type 3 of modern construction. It's still a good old pre-33 with brick and mortar and not very well reinforced, etc. So be aware, first impressions can be wrong. Keep assessing and communicate what you find. Remember also on the roof, as we'll talk about, inspection cuts can help you with that roof type identification. The second D is deploy ladders. So now we're getting to the action. We've got our assignment. We determined the roof type. We're ready to go. Well, we need to deploy those ladders. Ladders are your access point to the roof, but also they're your escape path. It's best to ladder at the corners. They're strong points on the building. And also, you want to make sure that you extend your ground ladders high enough to where they can be seen and where they're easy to step off onto the roof. So, you know what? We had the practice. We just raise that 24 all the way and make sure that it's nice and high, and lock those dogs and put it up against it. So assess if the extension ladder is needed. If so, you need to make sure you're in the right spot for that. When you're climbing the ladder, it's always good safety practices to have someone foot the ladder. Nobody wants to fall off a ladder and end their career with a broken back. As soon as possible, a second ladder should be placed. The E stands for equipment pool. As I said, with the standard operating procedures, there's usually one person who's going to be setting up an equipment pool. The sawyer is going to grab their saw, get it started, warm it up, make sure everything's good to go, and then they'll place that next to the ladder. It's a good place for an equipment pool, either right by the truck or right by that ladder that you're going to use for access. Nobody wants to go up on the roof and then go, oh, I forgot. Sorry, Cap, I got to go back down. You want to make sure you've got your right tools. Every firefighter should have their own PPEs, a breathing apparatus with mask and with drop bag, and an axe belt. That's standard equipment for any truckie. But in addition, each firefighter should at least have one tool, either a sounding tool or some kind of a hooking tool, or of course the sawyer will carry the saw. When you get all of that going, and you're going to go and get the job done, go up the ladder, it's a good idea to rally at the bottom of the ladder. A good captain makes sure that he communicates, and this is not a long thing. You're just going to turn and a couple of sentences. Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Okay, let's do a safety check. Everybody look at each other, make sure you've got all the right gear, and a lot of times captains will say, let's bottle up. Let's put on our breathing apparatus. A friend of mine did this, captain. He told his guys, okay, we're all going to bottle up, even though it looked like it wasn't a big deal. They got up on the roof. There was barely any smoke coming out of an air conditioner. They thought it was the air conditioner that was having a little fire inside the motor or something, and it wasn't. There was a fire underneath. He stepped offline. Guy behind him said that it looked like he was just going to go around the sounding man to take a look at this air conditioner. He stepped off of the line that they'd been sounding, and boom, he disappeared. And it happened in a moment. He was gone. Now, because he had put on his breathing apparatus, it saved his life, because what he fell into was a room full of pool supplies that was on fire with chlorine and acids that were off-gassing. If he'd have breathed the air in that environment, it would have killed him within a couple of breaths. So, make sure that you've communicated. A well-trained team can communicate this really quick with proper terminology. Captain might say, hey, we're on a lightweight roof. We're going to cut a louver. Then we're going to evaluate further. I'm going to lead and sound. Sawyer, you follow behind me. Engineer Osborne, you follow, and you're the safety guy. Boom, we're going. So it doesn't have to be a big, long discussion. Just quick, rally, communicate. What's our assignment? What's everybody doing? So that kind of takes us to safety procedures, which is our first S. You want to practice safety procedures. You're going up on the roof now, and this is a very dangerous location, one of the most dangerous spots at a residential or commercial structure fire. So mistakes happen when we rush and skip those best safety practices. So that's where I came up with the SIKM part of the acronym. SIKM is, okay, now we're going up. Let's go from here and make sure we do everything with good training, good procedures. So before I go into SIKM, just 3 statements. When you go up on a roof, watch out for each other. No lone rangers, everybody works together. No cross country. Stay on the path where we've sounded, where we know it's a good structural member below us. So SIKM is sound the roof, inspection hole, curve cuts, make the cut. Now, what we're going to do from this point on, we're going to go quickly from one thing to the next to the next. So as soon as we're getting on that roof, we're sounding it. You might even want to sound before you step down, depending on what you see as you're pulling up on the fire. If it's really ripping, you want to be, thinking about sounding as soon as you get on there. And sounding is a way where we pound on the roof, and it helps give a sense of where the stronger roof members are, where those beams, rafters, etc. So start as soon as you access, and don't just tap it. We're not pussyfooting around here. This is business. Hit the roof hard with your tool, listen and feel. There's a thumping sound you want to be listening for. That's a harder thump as opposed to an echoey thump. You also want to be feeling it. Man, you can tell when that strong structural member's below you, because it doesn't give. It resists. If it's giving, if it's kind of spongy and bouncing back, that's not where the hard part is, the structural members. So as you go, check left and right, but you're mostly pounding in front of you and finding a nice, safe path for you and your crew. Once you get on that roof, you want to cut an inspection hole. Unless you're on a very small residential fire and you're sure where the hole is and you're sure where what the roof type is, it's best in any other situation to cut an inspection hole. So cut that inspection hole so the captain or leader can see and feel for roof members. So an inspection hole is much smaller than the hole you're going to cut for the ventilation. It's triangular usually, and you want to roll at least one member, like in this great illustration here. So here's a rafter, a good triangular cut. You roll as soon as you hit a member, then you do the other sides, and you get then you need to pull it out. So somebody needs to pull the sheeting or the decking with a J-hook or a rubbish hook, and then you can kind of look in there, and a lot of captains will stick their hand in there and feel how hefty are these members. Are they 2x6? Are they big beams? This gives us an idea of what our roof type is and what kind of extension we might already have. If smoke's already coming out of here, we know that the fire's in the attic or something of that nature. As we decide where we're going to go, we're going to, on a larger roof, again, if we're on a small residential fire, we're going to a roof, maybe 3-4 steps to where we're going to make our cut. If it's a steeply pitched roof, we're going to use a roof ladder for walking on. But if it is any kind of a flat roof, we might be walking for quite a distance to, the location where we're going to do the cut. So after we've made our inspection hole, we know what we're looking for. We're going to follow that sound man, but every once in a while we might want to do a curve cut. Now, a curve cut, like you see with this firefighter here and this firefighter, can be just a once steep stab. So you just stick that baby in there, and you're looking for smoke to come out. Your captain might ask for another inspection cut, but usually a curve cut is adequate, and we're looking for thicker and darker smoke. When we get to that thicker, blacker smoke, we know that we're closer to the fire and we're closer to where we're going to make our cut. So now let's get to business. Let's make the cut. Don't dilly-dally around. You're not up there to, look at the view and look at everybody and puff out your chest and go, hey, we're truckies, we're bad to the bone, we're up on the roof. No. Get to business. Make the cut and then reassess. Use good safety procedures. Look at this captain. He's got a hold on his firefighter just in case. Help him keep his balance, and if things give way, he can pull on him. Make your usually going to be a louver cut. That's the most common. It might be a trench cut, might be a drop cut, but more often than not, a louver cut. You cut your four sides, and then with a pike pole or a rubbish hook, you're going to louver that thing, hit it on one side, pull on the other, and then you might get, boom, fire, smoke, black smoke. But if you don't, you need to knock out the ceiling or any material below the cut that's keeping the ventilation hole from really working the way it has to be. So at that point, you want to assess if a larger hole is necessary. And if so, we're going to add to that louver cut. But if not, do your job and get off the roof. Don't gawk. Don't sit there and puff out your chest and, we're macho men. We've faced the fire. We've faced the danger. Truckies, they can be pretty tough guys, gals, and want to sit around and hey, we're on the roof. This is where we go. Don't do that. Get your job done. Get off the roof. The roof is not a safe place to be during a fire, so you want to do what you got to do and then get out of there, especially with a lightweight roof. The longer it is exposed to heat and fire, the weaker it gets. So don't be that person that falls through. And a great example of that is the video that we have in our class, in this module, where the Captain Dern from Fresno Fire Department falls through the roof. You can see it happens fast. And he was sounding maybe not as hard as he should have, and he was kind of in a hurry, and, he just went a little bit too far, and man, there was one step, and boom, he was gone. So make sure that you get your job done, and then get off the roof. Okay, this is Engineer Osborne over and out. Be safe out there.